White versus black mulch. Which one is better? In today's episode, we're going to talk all about the pros and cons of white mulch versus black mulch, which one is better, in my opinion, and why you would choose one over the other, all in today's episode. Let's go. So this right here is known as silage tarp. Silage tarp is a tarp that is made from plastic, and it is white on one side and black on the other. Now, the question always comes up, which is better? Luke, do you prefer the black? Do you prefer the white? And so I want to cover the pros and cons of both, because the reason why one side is black and one side is white is not because they did this for their own health, right? The company that produced this was made by Bootstrap Farmer, but you can get silage tarp just about anywhere. And it makes an incredible mulch that covers a huge area. That's why we went with silage tarp for this, because this is a 50 foot by 50 foot area. There's a tremendous amount of growing space to essentially keep weed free and really kind of protect all the plants that we have in here from the harmful elements, from weeds, from soil degradation. This just is a really simple way to cover a large area. And the company that produces this, they make it black on one side and white on the other to give you the choice. So first I want to cover white because that's what side we actually have up right now. The reason why we have white up right now is for a couple of reasons. One, we do not want it to overheat. You see, if you were to have it on the black side, black absorbs heat. In the early season, it's great. In the later season, not so much. When it gets up to 80, 85 degrees, that black can be 95 to 100 to 110 degrees, depending on just how bright the sun's energy is that day, or how strong, I should say, the sun's energy is that day. And that can greatly reduce not only your overall plant health, but it can also kill soil bacteria, soil fungi. And essentially what growers will do is they'll use black in the early season to give them an early start. The only downside is later in the season, some of your plants can be a little bit stressed. Now, how you get around that is by having large plants that essentially fill out and shade the soil. You see, if you have a lot of foliage growing up, like if it were pumpkins, a lot of farmers will use black for pumpkins because pumpkins, they essentially will fill out that area early on. And then once it's filled in, the leaves will essentially shade the black so the black doesn't get nearly as hot. If you're growing something like, a small plant that didn't fully fill out, you're going to have some tremendous battles to fight with the heat. And so that's something to consider. Does the plant you're growing tolerate warm to hot soil? Because, like for instance, lettuce would suffer right away. And because of that, it's great in the early season, not great in the later season. Another reason why white is our choice here has to do with the reflectivity of it. The reflectivity of this white is obviously, because black absorbs, white reflects. This is going to give us up to 30% increased efficiency with our crops. And this is why I love white so much, is because with these tomatoes, we're going to have sunlight bouncing off of the white back up into the canopy from underneath. And you're essentially going to get sunlight from above and sunlight from below, essentially growing the plants from all angles. And there are many studies that show that when using white mulch, that the overall amount of photosynthesis or energy generation that can happen with a plant can be increased by up to 30%. And that means that we have 30% more growable energy coming to these tomato plants that we have here, leading to faster ripening fruit, healthier, stronger plants, more foliage equaling more energy. Even though they're growing outside in full sun, the benefit of white can amplify that benefit even more. And so that's a huge benefit as well, is having the white to reflect the sun's energy. And the last two reasons why we use white mulch over black has to do with the fact that the white mulch still offers just as much weed suppression as the black does. There's no difference in white versus black because it's opaque. Opaque means no sunlight can get through. That means all the weeds underneath this plastic are still getting smothered and still being killed, just as if it were black. So there's no difference white versus black. But then the final reason is it actually helps to keep our plants slightly cool. So as I said, in the early season, with black mulch, black can help to warm the soil in the spring, help get those plants up and growing. But once the plants are up and growing, I don't want them overheating. Because I grow organically, rely very heavily on the beneficial bacteria and fungi in the soil. And because I don't want to kill them off, it's actually better to keep them slightly cool. And a slightly cool plant is also a less stressed plant, especially in the later season. Once we get into August and early September, it gets super hot. Late July, August, and early September are the hottest months here in Michigan. And the white can actually be beneficial to us because the soil will have no problem being 80, 85 degrees. But it's better than allowing it to get up to 110 or even 120 degrees in some cases. The white will actually help to reflect some of that sun's energy back up into the plants like we talked about and not be absorbed into the black, heating up the soil. And that's just, again, our preference, our circumstances. Are you going to be a different case? You might be. And so next I want to talk about black, because black has its own set of benefits that white doesn't do quite as well in. So we're going to talk about black now to give black a fair shake to be your choice for mulch, because I don't think, and then spoiler, I don't think that one is necessarily better than the other. I think it really comes down to the use case and the exact user of the mulch, because every location is going to be different, every garden is going to be different, every plant's needs are going to be different. And so because of that, you have to take those things into consideration. Otherwise, you can't really decide which one is going to be better. So now what about black mulch? So black mulch will have the same weed suppression benefits as white mulch. Obviously, like I said, they both, since they're opaque, are not letting any sunlight through, so the weeds that are underneath are going to be completely smothered after about 1 or 2 weeks. It is really, really amazing when you have mulch that covers grass like this or weeds, just how fast they get smothered out and killed. And then worms can come up and consume them and turn them into compost for your plants. It is just an amazing way to prepare a garden bed. Now, where black kind of shines is that black will also, because it heats up, black will also trap a lot more heat, meaning it can actually end up killing things like weed seeds. So whereas the white will smother just like the black will heat up and can actually kill off weed seeds to help further the weed suppression benefits of using black versus white. Now, obviously, that does have its downsides. You know, when black heats up and it gets too hot, it can kill off beneficial bacteria and fungi if it gets too hot. It can essentially solarize or sterilize the soil. For an organic gardener, that might not be something that you want. But then again, some of the benefits of suppressing weeds completely might be better off, because then you can inoculate later with, you could use compost tea, you could use beneficial bacteria and fungi inoculant, you could use a fertilizer like Trifecta or something that has beneficial bacteria and fungi inoculating the fertilizer. So you can always add those again later, but the weed suppression benefits are definitely one of the key benefits of using black versus white. Now, another benefit of black is the black, because it warms the soil. A lot of gardeners find that this black here can help them get 3 to 4 additional weeks of growing season, and that's in the early season. So if you were growing in, let's say the first day you were out gardening was May 1st, you could be growing as early as the 1st or 2nd week in April with same growing conditions, just the black helps to warm the soil faster, meaning your plants can be planted out sooner. And because the black absorbs the sun's heat, it releases it throughout the evening. So even in colder nights, that warmth can actually be radiated up, essentially creating a little mini greenhouse effect around your plants. And that geothermal, essentially that thermal mass, that geothermal heat is going to be radiating back up because it warmed the soil, and the soil then warms the cooler air by your plants. Meaning that if there was a threat of frost, you're given about 1 to 3 degrees of frost protection just from having black being face up versus the white. And again, in early season, white definitely struggles because white does not absorb any heat. It reflects the heat away. In late season, obviously, if you have it fully covered, if you have a lot of the benefits of having a lot of foliage, you're not going to have some of the downsides that can come from having black mulch. Like I said, with pumpkins, it's a great benefit. With pumpkins, in fact, we're going to be using black mulch because the foliage will completely cover that black mulch, completely negating any negative side effects that can come from black mulch. And the final thing with black that I really like is that it's not as bright. Now, if you have, well, I don't know if you've been able to really notice with the camera, but being out here on even a moderately sunny day, the white is just about enough to blind you. In fact, it's highly recommended by even industry professionals. They will say if you're using white mulch, absolutely consider eye protection, because being out here on a sunny day, it's like being outside in the snow. It's called snow blindness. If you ever come back inside from being outside in the snow and all of a sudden you're like, I'm blind, I can't see anything. It's because your retinas have dilated so small, essentially so small to let in as little light as possible that it can actually fatigue your eyes. And then when you walk inside into a dark room, they don't even have time to dilate fast enough to let that light back in. And so essentially a dark room seems like it's pitch black and you're bumping into everything. That's the same exact situation with this white mulch. It is so unbelievably bright that it does have a tendency to kind of fatigue your eyes a little bit. Is it the end of the world? No, it's certainly not, but it's absolutely something to consider. I mean, this stands out like a sore thumb versus black can help to kind of absorb some of that sun's light, absorbs all of it. So it's very easy on the eyes versus the white. So just some things to consider. I really hope, that you learned something from this episode. I hope that you enjoyed. I know that not everybody is going to be using plastic mulch. I know that not everyone is going to probably watch this video and say, I got a lot out of it. But for those that are using plastic mulch, it does me no justice, does you no service, I should say, to be growing with plastic mulch and not cover that question. And so yes, we do grow a lot of gardens without any plastic mulch at all. I know there's a lot of people that are trying to reduce their plastic usage, and in some cases, plastic silage tarp is the best alternative. We're going to be using this for multiple years. We're going to fold it up at the end of the season and reuse it. So I know that it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really do hope that you at least learned something. I hope that this helped expand your gardening, knowledge bank, if you will. And hopefully it just helps make you a more well-rounded gardener. So the next time you hear someone ask the question, I wonder if I should go with black, or I wonder if I should go with white, you can help them. You can help answer their question. So I hope this helped. I hope you learned something new. And if you have any further questions, feel free to post them in the comments box down below. And I'd love to know, if you use plastic mulch, do you use white or do you use black? Let me know in the comments box down below. And as always, we'll catch you all on the next episode. Grow bigger. Take care. Bye.